You're watching the Alabama Weather Network.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Drew McCombs with the Alabama Weather Network, and this is your Sunday morning weather briefing for Sunday, October the 5th. And what we're watching for today and the next couple of days is high surf and rip currents at the beaches. We're going to have a pretty gusty easterly wind across especially the southern portion of the state, and that's helping to kick up the surf a little bit and create those rip currents. And I've got a trough out in the Gulf helping to increase the rain chances, and moisture is increasing in general across, especially the southern part of the state, spreading to the north. But rain is near the coast this morning. It'll be spreading inland, and we'll talk more about that as we move on through our briefing here. So starting off looking at the SkyCam network. So if we go from the north, it looks pretty calm, just like it has been a lot here recently. Blue skies at 68 degrees. Dew point is at 61. You got a little bit of an east-northeasterly breeze at 6, but you see gust at 26. It's a pretty breezy morning across especially the southern part of the state, but even the northern part of the state getting in on some occasional gusts as well. Looking at Ardmore, again, you don't really see any rain in the northern part of the state. Still looks about like it has lately, pretty frequently. 68 degrees there, comfortable start. And again, you do have a gust of wind around 21 miles per hour occasionally there, although the sustained winds are not all that much. Ball Rock, though, you can see the trees moving around a little bit there up the elevation there at 64 degrees there. Pretty nice, beautiful, just a few clouds around. So again, seeing a little bit of the breeze there as you look, especially in the little bit higher elevations. As we move down to Hoover at 67 degrees there, a little bit more cloud cover as you move towards the south. And you can see we're got a little bit of a breeze there too, east-northeast at 12 miles per hour. So we're kind of bumping up our sustained winds a little bit there in Hoover in the kind of the Birmingham metro. And as we get down further in the southern part of the state, you can see a lot more clouds around now. Still some blue skies though in Dozier, and you can see it's 68 degrees there and a little bit of a breeze there as well. Now as we get down to the immediate or more to the immediate coast, we're starting to see where we've got some of the rain there. So looking at Fairhope across the bay, if you look towards the left hand side of the screen, which is more towards the south, you can see looks like a rain shaft there. So we got some rain falling there and moving inland from the Gulf at 70 degrees there. Got a little bit more moisture in place for sure, with the dew points in the upper 60s, and should see that to increase a little bit as we get through the rest of the day. Orange Beach got some rain on the lens there. It's 73 degrees, and you can see, look at those sustained wind at 30 miles per hour. I think that gust is probably wrong there, so I would not believe the gust of 78 miles per hour, so I apologize for that. But looks like we at least have a pretty gusty wind there this morning, and you can certainly see that the waves are kicking up a pretty good bit, and we've got some rain there in the area. And then as we take a look at Gulf Shores, and again, I wouldn't pay attention to that gust there, but you've got a stiff breeze there, and you can see the temperature at 73 degrees, and we've got some rain in the distance there at Gulf Shores as well. And you can certainly see that the surf is pretty rough out there, and so this is not going to be a day. The next couple of days, in the next several days, is not going to be good swimming days for sure. Here's a look at those current alerts. You can see, so most of the state is still pretty calm, but along the coast, you can see some of that blue there. Those are those rip current statements that are in effect for pretty much the entirety of the Alabama beaches and the Panhandle Florida beaches. And so those rip current statements go at least through tomorrow, maybe a little bit further than that. So it's still not going to be good to get out into the surf in the next couple of days for sure. You've also got small craft advisories out there as well. The seas are going to be pretty rough with this trough that is down in the Gulf. Looking at the radar, again, you can see there that why you might not want to get out on the water too much today. You can see we have some fairly heavy thunderstorms in the Gulf moving towards the north. And you can see that the Alabama Gulf Coast is already getting in on the rain this morning, and it's spreading a little bit further inland. And there's plenty down there that'll continue to surge towards the north. So we expect the rain chances to increase over the course of the day as you move north. But right now, it's really just kind of confined to southern Mobile and Baldwin counties. As we zoom in a little bit here, you can see that the cloud cover has certainly increased across, especially the southern and then central and maybe kind of the eastern parts of the state. Not as much in the northern and northwestern corners there. And then again, you can see the some heavier showers moving into parts of Mobile and Baldwin counties. Looks like Mobile itself hasn't gotten a whole lot yet, but most of the heavier rain has been confined to the immediate coast and right there along the beaches. But you can see that is kind of spreading to the north, so slowly expect to see our rain chances increase. But the heavier rain would be more likely to be right there along the coast. We don't expect nearly as heavy of a rain as you move up further to the north. Looking at our temperatures right now, we're in the upper 60s in some spots in the north part of the state, 68 in Coleman, 68 in Florence. A few cooler spots still. Hamilton got down down to 63 degrees. But generally we've seen, whereas we had some fairly cool mornings the last several mornings, we are a little bit warmer as we've increased the moisture with this flow turning more to the southeast here in the last day or so, and so many places in the southern part of the state only reached down to about 70 degrees this morning. Dew points, you can see that looking at it as well. We're increasing those. They're not super moist, but you've got dew points starting to creep up a little bit, especially in the south, getting in the mid to upper 60s, around 70 degrees. Still low 60s in the northern part of the state, but we've got a lot more greens showing up on this map than what we saw a couple of days ago, where we had a good bit of dry air in place. Look at the wind gusts. These are current wind gusts. Again, this is not the sustained winds, but the gusts, and you're getting occasional gusts to around 30 miles per hour in many spots. You can see that in Selma and Greenville and Alexander City, and also Birmingham's getting up to about 24. And so generally seeing some pretty good gusts there, and we've got a little bit more of an easterly flow coming in here, and we may see that turn a little bit more to the southeast, but definitely the breeze will be a part of the story for today. Looking at our Futurecast, again, as we move through, you can see that we see those rain showers and probably storms increase as we get into the afternoon. So looks like there may be a little bit of a lull after this initial round of rain in the immediate coastal areas, but as we get into the afternoon, we get a little bit more insulation from the sun, we will see some instability, and it looks like we'll fire off a round of showers and thunderstorms, especially in the southern part of the state. So places like Thomasville, Monroeville, Andalusia, we'll see some, it looks like, or have some in the vicinity. And so generally looks like it'll be kind of south of I-85 by the time we get to this afternoon, and then spreading further to the north as we get further on into the evening. So by the time we get to around 7 p.m., we could have some fairly heavy showers and thunderstorms along the 2059 corridor on the western side of the state there, in parts of Pickens County, and also into parts of Sumter and Greene and Hale and Tuscaloosa, then Tuscaloosa County. Maybe not a ton yet in the Birmingham metro, but maybe a few along I-20 there near Pell City and Moody, and going towards Anniston, and then pretty widespread showers down towards Montgomery and further places further to the south. So again, rain chances increasing, especially in the southern part of the state. As we move past that, looks like things sort of fizzle out before they get too far north. For today at least. As we get into tomorrow afternoon, another round of scattered showers and thunderstorms, primarily in the southern part of the state, maybe more southwestern, but it does look like a few may creep up into the western and northwestern part of the state by tomorrow afternoon. So again, we'll see rain chances increasing a little bit more in the north, but still not looking like anything super significant. Looks like the best chance of at least a decent shower or enough to measure in will be in the southern part of the state as we move through into Monday and Tuesday. And then as we get into Tuesday afternoon, trying to actually shift things a little bit more into the northwestern part of the state. Still scattered showers around in the southern part of the state as well, but looks like we might have a little bit more of a chance of some heavy rain as we get into Tuesday afternoon in the northern part of the state in the Tennessee Valley. Here's some look at the forecast wind gust. I mentioned earlier it's currently very gusty out there, and you can see that the forecast wind gusts show that continues, maybe backing off a little bit as we get in the afternoon, but still pretty good breeze for a good portion of the day. And as we continue to move through, again, occasionally gusting up to 20, 30 miles per hour at times as we get into even this evening, showing some pretty good wind gusts. So generally just staying pretty windy, I think, over the course of the day. And so that'll be something that we've had a little bit more of that here recently, but before the last several days, we hadn't seen a whole lot of that lately. Looking at our current alerts across the country, we've got a rip current statements across a good portion of the Gulf Coast. Got a marine warning there out. Looks like near Apalachicola for some of the heavier thunderstorms, and getting some other starting to see some winter alerts and some winter weather advisories and things of that nature, some freeze warnings and things like that up in the northern tier as we've started to get a little bit of some colder air mass trying to come into the northern part of or northwestern part of the country. And outside of that, it's pretty quiet, especially in the eastern, kind of east of the Mississippi, pretty quiet outside of some of the coastal stuff going on here. But again, starting to see some signs of the colder air trying to come into that northern part in the northern plains there. So you can see, looking at the satellite radar, that's partly because of that low pressure that's moved through. That's moving through parts of North and South Dakota, and you've got some cold air moving in and high pressure moving in behind it. See some snow showers there in Montana and also down into Wyoming and Idaho. Further down to close to us, again, you got that trough there showing up along the Gulf. That's what's helping to generate the fairly widespread rain there that's over the Gulf for sure, and then moving into parts of Louisiana, South Mississippi, and South Alabama, and the panhandle of Florida as well. So that'll be influencing our weather a good bit here the next day or two. High pressure off towards the northeast of there, so the kind of the Midwest and northeastern part of the country and the Atlantic seaboard is staying pretty quiet outside of this trough that we've got down here in the Gulf. Severe weather outlook for today, pretty isolated, or not a whole lot going on here. Just got a level 1 marginal risk there in parts of Kansas and Nebraska, but nothing too significant that we're looking at for today. For tomorrow, no organized severe weather forecast across the country. Excessive rainfall potential, got a little strip there along that front, moving from Kansas up through Nebraska into Iowa, but we've also got some in our state as well. You can see that little zone that's confined to the coast there from southeastern Louisiana to southern Mississippi, then through kind of the very western sliver of the Florida Panhandle, including obviously the Alabama Gulf Coast, and that's, you can see we're seeing it this morning already on the radar that there is some heavy rain there in place. Here's a look at our tropical update. So things have quieted down a little bit, obviously, with the hurricanes moving off to the northeast that we had around yesterday or last week. But you can see we've got this area in the Atlantic that we're watching that has now just been updated just this morning to a 70% chance of development over the next 7 days, 40% chance over the next 2 days. And it's kind of a little bit off the screen there, but you've got a wave that's moving into the far eastern part of that red zone there, as you see the satellite lapse there. And so there's this pretty high chance that that's going to develop into a tropical depression over the next several days. So we'll be watching that, looking like it's pretty likely to recurve like a lot of the systems have this year, but certainly something we'll continue to watch, and we'll take a look at some of the forecasts for that. So this is a look at the GFS forecast of the atmospheric moisture. You'll see that starting to come onto to the bottom right part of the screen there, and you can see it's circulating there as we get into Tuesday afternoon, heading towards the Lesser Antilles and starting to move, take a little bit more of a northwesterly turn there, but still being a little bit further south than some of these systems we've seen recently, definitely further south than the last couple we've had. So we'll see how that plays out and how that affects things, but it does start moving pretty significantly towards the north right as it's getting to the Lesser Antilles there and nearing Puerto Rico. Now, of course, this is one run of a model, and so this is just giving you an idea of what something could look like, but not set in stone for sure at this point. But we still don't see that really affecting us here in Alabama. Looking at our overall mid-level pattern here, so we start off in kind of on the western side of a ridge here, and as we get into Wednesday afternoon or evening, start to see a little bit more of a zonal flow, and then maybe a trough trying to dig in a little bit to the north. And as we push that through the rest of the week, trying to develop a little, almost kind of a cutoff low here over us, which could, anytime you get that sort of situation, then the weather can get pretty interesting. So we'll see how that evolves, but that could certainly mean a little bit cooler weather, a little bit better chance of some rain potentially, but we might in some ways could be on kind of the dry side of things there with that. Just kind of depends on the exact placement if that actually kind of works out, but at least would mean we probably wouldn't be super warm as we get towards the next weekend. But again, we're a little bit far out to get into super specifics there with that. Looking at our total moisture, so you can certainly see that in that red there, that's really moist air that has moved into the southern quarter of the state as of this morning, and that's how we're getting that rain along the coast here, and that continues to push inland where the whole state is pretty much engulfed in some pretty tropical moisture as we get into Monday and Tuesday. So that's where we get those rain chances increasing. Then we got a front trying to push in from the north as we get into Wednesday and Thursday. Looks like maybe it doesn't all the way push through the state, at least according to this model here, that it may stall out and not push all the way through, but it still would push some of that deeper moisture back down to the south, so that we would kind of decrease our rain chances at that point, even if we don't get into a really super dry air mass by Friday morning. And then after that, again, it doesn't ever really totally sweep through here, although this is looking like we're kind of getting into that upper level low pattern where, again, we would kind of keep some of that higher moisture down to the south and be fairly mild potentially. Looking at the forecast for the next 5 days, just looking at your clouds and radar here, again, you see the moisture coming in from the south with that trough, and then the trough kind of dissipates and moves inland. And as we get into Monday and Tuesday, But then you'll see that we've got that front approaching from the northwest, which could enhance the rain chances over the northern part of the state as we get into the middle part of the week. Not looking like a super significant rainfall chance as far as totals of rain, but anything we can get, given how dry we've been, is helpful. And so again, as we move into Thursday, again, maybe a few lingering showers around mainly the eastern part of the state. And so, we can't rule out rain chances generally especially in the southern part of the state as we get later in the week. And you see a little bit more of that here too, showing a few more scattered showers in the southern part of the state as we get later in the week. Then maybe staying mostly dry in the rest of the state as we get into late week and into the weekend. But again, we'll see how that all plays out here, but certainly still not looking like we have outside of what we're going to be seeing today and tomorrow and the next, in the southern part of the state, we don't see significant rainfall that much really on the board at this point still. So again, it's October. We kind of expect that. But again, this is just looking out even further out into the kind of the 2-week time frame and showing maybe in this case right here, potentially showing a good first push of cooler air coming in as we get into kind of late October. So that could be the case. Again, this is one run of the GFS model. But that if this were to occur, that looks like we would finally get a kind of a cool push of some Canadian air trying to come in and actually making it feel pretty chilly in the mornings. Rainfall totals of the past 7 days, we haven't gotten a whole lot. We've gotten just about 3/4 of an inch in Gulf Shores. The rest of the state has been pretty paltry. So again, that's not helped anything as far as our drought's concerned. The percent of normal rain over the last 30 days shows that right there. Towards the north where we had some good rain in the last couple of weeks in spots is better, but most of the state is getting down into the single digits as far as percent of normal in the last month. So 5% in Demopolis, 8% in Selma. So that's not good. That's where you've got the worst of the drought right now. But the whole state outside of the kind of the northern part of the state still been pretty dry. Going to get some pretty good rain totals, it looks like, over the next couple of days in the immediate coastal areas. So could get up to 5 inches in Gulf Shores. This is right. And we'll get it probably at least a couple inches, 2 to 4 inches in the Mobile and Baldwin County areas. But it cuts off pretty quickly as you go further north. Now, could get close to an inch in some spots. And I'm sure there will be some places that'll get an inch or more over the next several days in the southern part of the state. But as you move more to the north, it may be more like 1/10 of an inch. And so certainly not looking like a really big, heavy band of rain anytime soon and anywhere other than just the far south coastal areas that are getting the rain this morning. All right, your 7-day forecast for North Alabama. Again, we expect to be pretty dry in North Alabama today, 85 degrees for the high. We see lows kind of creeping up into the upper 60s in the next several days. Rain chances do increase, though, for North Alabama as we get into kind of midweek as that front starts to approach. Still not anything super significant, and then the temperatures may back down with that upper level low towards the end of the week. And then for South Alabama, again, good rain chances for today, especially along the coast. Those will be kind of 100% along the coast, but not further inland. So that's why we don't have it represented here as 100%. But very high down in Mobile and Baldwin counties. It ramps down pretty quickly as you go further to the north, and then still some rain chances around tomorrow. But it does look like we kind of taper off pretty quickly and dry out a good bit as we get into the middle part of this coming week. Temperatures may be approaching 90, so we're still staying pretty warm as we get into midweek, but might start to back down with that upper level low potentially later in the week. So again, we'll hope to see that to get a little bit more seasonable with our temperatures. Well, that's your weather briefing for this morning. We appreciate you, as always, watching us here on the Alabama Weather Network.